This is the first of a series of videos of my time spent with Oxford on his journey through New Zealand in the autumn of 2021. So where do I start with this story? I've been a Land-Rover enthusiast for most of my life, and unlike most enthusiasts, I had not grown up on a farm or from a family of Land Rover owners. I bought my first Land Rover back in the early 1980s and scrounged around in second-hand bookshops looking for manuals and books on Land Rover adventures, and I came across First Overland by Tim Slezzer. Back in 1955, 5 graduates from Cambridge University and 1 from Oxford in the UK set themselves a challenge to be the first to drive overland from London to Singapore. Perhaps a bit ho-hum now, but it had never been done before, and being less than 10 years after World War II, many parts of the journey still had smouldering ruins. Most of the chaps had just finished their degree when they set out on their expedition. All of the team members were selected based on their skills. Anthony B.B. Barrington Brown was a cameraman, Adrian Cowell, business manager, Patrick Murphy, navigator and chef, Nigel Newbury, quartermaster mechanic, Henry Knott, chief engineer, remember that name for later in my tale, and Tim Slezzer, scribe and assistant cameraman, author of the book First Overland. During this time of a brave new world, it was rapidly becoming a craze to go on safari and explore new frontiers, and there were a huge number of manufacturers who had turned their wartime production into civilian safari suppliers, with tents, packs, clothing and camera gear. Photos of Ed Hillary's ascent of Everest shows a ton of army surplus type gear, and the Rover Car Company's new invention was rapidly building a reputation as a vehicle of choice for all self-respecting explorers, the world's first RV, the Land Rover. The team contacted the Rover Car Company asking for their support, and were fortunate to be loaned 2 new Land Rovers for the trip, which we now know as 86-inch Series 1 hardtop station wagons. The trip was known as the Oxford and Cambridge Far Eastern Expedition, and it was just epic and was well documented in Tim Slezzer's book First Overland, and a lot of the trip can now be watched on YouTube. But it's what happened after they got back to the UK that not too many people know about. The vehicles were returned to the Rover Car Company at Solihull, a tad used, and as can be imagined, Rover was swamped with requests for vehicles for all sorts of great causes. Cambridge was given to an aid charity based in Africa, while Oxford was given to the British Ornithologists Union and was shipped off to the Ascension Island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, but both disappeared into history. In 2017, a UK-based property developer, Adam Bennett, set off on a quest to find Oxford and succeeded in finding what was left on the nearby St Helena Island, did a deal with a chap who was part of the original ornithologist team and swapped the remains for a later Defender. Adam shipped the remains back to the UK, had Oxford sympathetically restored, and loaned Oxford to Jaguar Land Rover for a promotional tour for Land Rover from Singapore to London in 2019. This trip was called The Last Overland, and there are some great videos on YouTube of the return journey. Once back in the UK, Adam Bennett thought it'd be great to share Oxford with as many Land Rover enthusiasts as possible, so arranged to ship Oxford across the pond for him to continue his journey west around the world. David Short is the president of the Rover Owners Association of Virginia and organised the American journey, which was dubbed Sea to Shining Sea, Oxford in America, and can also be seen on YouTube. David took Oxford from the east coast to the west coast and back again, visiting as many Rover and Land Rover car clubs and rallies as possible. So what's next? Australia? Mike Smith, who I knew from the New Zealand Series 1 group in the 1980s, now living in Australia, contacted me in late February 2020, asking if I'd be interested in organising the New Zealand leg of Oxford's trip around the world. Many years ago, Mike had made a replica of Oxford and drove it on the 2006 Oxford to Cambridge Land Rover rally, and I understand that somehow Adam Bennett tracked him down to see if he'd be interested. Mike suggested to Adam that perhaps New Zealand might like to have a play first and contacted me. Having been involved in organising a few car rallies in the past, I fully understood the commitment required, and the erratic nature of my job made it very difficult to plan too far in advance, but I knew just the man for the job, Rod Corbett in Wanaka. Rod and his wife Anne could be described as extreme car enthusiasts, being heavily involved in the Vintage Car Club and the Targa rally scene for many years. I met Rod through a mutual friend, Duncan Munro from Cleveland, who put Rod onto me as a fellow Land Rover enthusiast. I rang Rod to see if he'd be interested in getting involved, and with his usual boundless energy he was, so I passed Rod's contact details on to Mike Smith. Mike Smith flicked an email to Rod, and the pop servers all over the world lit up as Rod set about making contact with Adam Bennett, David Short, and yeah, even Tim Slezzer. It was about this time that COVID started to turn the world upside down, as Rod and I cobbled together all the various car events we knew that were planned for 2021. Me with the four-wheel drive events, the Land Rover Series 1 run in Wanganui, and the Herworth four-wheel drive safari in the Hawke's Bay. Rod with the LSE car show and the Wheels of Wanaka, all due inside a perfect storm for February and April 2021. It was just that dick called COVID that would shut everything down. By this stage I'd set up a Facebook page called the First Overland Expedition to New Zealand and started formulating an itinerary for Oxford based around the various other events planned around the country. The Wheels at Wanaka is a biannual event and showcases new and vintage farm and industrial machinery as well as cars. With its obvious location at the end of the country, combined with the area's world-famous scenery, it just worked out perfectly to be hailed as the final destination, well, sort of, for Oxford's trip through New Zealand. Rod was keen to align the Wheels at Wanaka event in 2023 with Land Rover's 75th birthday, but this was just too good an opportunity to pass up to have a massive Land Rover rally in Wanaka over Easter 2021. I posted the following message as the main cover for the First Overland Facebook page. All Land Rovers are invited to attend a Land Rover Oxford and Wanaka safari to be held from Tuesday 30th of March through to Monday 5th of April 2021, culminating and coordinated with the Wheels at Wanaka event on Saturday 3rd and Sunday the 4th of April 2021. Both events will be based at three parks, Ballantyne Road and Wanaka. The 1955 Series 1 Land Rover Oxford, arguably the most famous Land Rover in the world, will be in New Zealand and will be attending both events in Wanaka. September in 2020, I arranged an audience with a marketing manager and events manager at Jaguar Land Rover New Zealand, whom I knew through the launch of the new Defender, to see if Land Rover New Zealand would be interested in getting involved, and they confirmed that they would be interested in displaying Oxford in their dealership showrooms. This relieved us of the issue of how to move Oxford around the country and into Ireland. All we needed now was to confirm Oxford's arrival. Fortunately, Rod knew Ian Jenner of Jenner's Worldwide Freight, who specialise in transportation of cars around the world, and Rod also managed to convince Star Insurance to cover Oxford for his stay in New Zealand. Rod is a very persuasive man. A massive amount of correspondence went on between Rod Corbett, David Short in the US, Adam Bennett in the UK, and Ian Jenner regarding the shipping from the east coast of America to New Zealand, but eventually all the planets aligned and Oxford was on his way to the South Pacific. I was working in the central North Island when Oxford finally arrived, and I was not able to get in to see him while onto the showroom floor at Archibald and Shorter's North Shore, but Jay Kalidis, Archibald's event manager, sent me some photographs of Oxford all nicely set up in the showroom, and I posted them on the First Overland Facebook page. You could hear the collective gasp of hundreds of New Zealand Land Rover owners saying, "It's real! Oxford is actually here!" By this stage Rod and I had firmed up Oxford's timetable and created all the events on the First Overland page, while Rod had contacted all of the dealerships and Land Rover clubs to make sure they all knew about the Facebook page and the events we had arranged, to give as many Land Rover enthusiasts as possible the chance not only to see Oxford, but many got the opportunity to actually drive Oxford. By this stage Rod had got himself in the organising committee for Wheels at Wanaka, which gave our project a massive boost, having access to some serious horsepower when it came to organising large-scale events, such as the automating the events booking system for Wheels at Wanaka and the off-road safaris, as well as purchasing related merchandise such as decals and t-shirts. From Archibald and Shore to North Shore, Oxford started his long journey south to Wanaka, with his first stop, Archibald and Shorter and Green Lane. I'd organised with Archibald and Shorters for me to drive Oxford from Green Lane back over the harbour bridge to the North Shore, where they'd laid on a big breakfast for their customers and Land Rover enthusiasts to enjoy, and I finally got my first chance to meet Oxford in the flesh, the Land Rover I'd read about all those years ago. Let's say we didn't exactly hit it off straight away. Oxford was parked in the main showroom. I loaded some gear on the back, typical Series 1 patch-up gear including a tow rope, jump leads, and hit the starter button. Oxford fired into life. Good start. I edged him forward towards $4 million plus worth of Range Rovers on the slope outside the showroom, and found the steering so heavy I struggled to get the front round before attempting a reverse hill start when I stalled him. I hit the starter button and nothing happened. I grabbed the jumper leads from the back and tried to short the battery straight onto the starter. Nothing. Back around the building and I backed my Land Rover Discovery into the showroom and dragged Oxford back up the slope on a short strop, then crash started him down the hill, just missing the Range Rover lineup. I kept them running as I parked the Discovery back around the back of the building again, and we were off, but no fuel. Turns out the gauge was busted. Crossed the road to the servo, filled Oxford up with the engine kept running, and we're off to hit the unforgiving traffic of Auckland's southern motorways on a Saturday morning. God help me. It was a slightly disappointing turnout at Archibald and Shore and North Shore, but the folks that did turn up made up for the small number with their enthusiasm. I'd organised a series of timed stops where Oxford could be parked up on his grand tour of Auckland, which included Harbour View Park in Te Atatu, Auckland Domain, Bastion Point with the America's Cup racing in the harbour behind, and finally back to Archibald and Shore to Green Lane by about 4 p.m. The intent was to allow Land Rover enthusiasts to get photographs of their beloved Land Rover next to Oxford without having to travel right across the city or join in as a convoy. I'm often asked why I play the music in the background. I guess it's a matter of taste. Some like the sound of Series 1 transfer boxes, and some don't. I listed an events page at the next stop was the Auckland Domain at about 1400, somewhere along Football Road in the park, and added that the domain could be in heavy use due to Saturday cricket this time of year, so perhaps a quick drive through and if the opportunity presents, a quick photo stop. The prediction turned out to be bang on, We ended up driving past each other as we circled like sharks looking for a quick place to stop. We ended up parking on the slope just down below the museum for a quick photo shoot. Our next stop was the Mickey Savage Memorial Park on Bastion Point via Tamaki Drive to arrive about 3 p.m. It turned out the America's Cup Regatta was on in the background between North Head and the harbour volcanic island of Rangitoto. By 4 p.m. I'd been battling Auckland Saturday traffic in a Series 1 for over 8 hours and I was bushed. I think 2 vehicles followed me back to Archibald and Shorter to consume the 20 kilograms of sausages that Greer Fife had cooked up in the Series 2 Land-Rover barbecue truck. I hope we had not overestimated the draw of Oxford. Off early again, heading back into the city, this time my Land Rover Defender, all nicely polished up and ready for the LSD car show. This is a very prestigious event, and Rod had arranged with Gary Boyce, chairman of the LSD organising committee, to display Oxford in the Newmarket Room in the main stand at the LSD racecourse. Archibald and Shorter was a hive of activity with staff shuttling the latest and greatest Jag and Land Rover products down to the Giltrap display area at the show. I fired up Oxford and followed the convoy down to the showgrounds and headed over to the carpeted, yeah, you heard right, carpeted Newmarket Room to park Oxford smack bang in the middle, as instructed. Did I mention that Oxford had a bit of an incontinence issue? The dude came over looking very officious, asking where I was going with the old Land Rover, figuring Oxford looked a tad out of place amongst the Lamborghinis and Ferraris. I explained it was a famous vehicle and Gary Boyce wanted it centre stage. Oh, all good, if Gary wants it there, that's fine. I switched Oxford off and ran back to Archibald and Shorter to grab my Defender to park it with the rest of the Land Rovers from the Auckland Land Rover Club. A few hours later I went to check on Oxford to see how he was handling the Prestige. I could not tell you how many millions of dollars worth of cars were parked in the Newmarket Room that day, but guess which one had the biggest crowd around him? Yep, Oxford. I could be cruel and say it was a case of, what the hell's that doing in here? So everyone walks over to have a look. But I got nabbed by someone from my local radio station who had been looking for me. I guess it was the Land Rover hat and t-shirt I was wearing that gave me away, but they wanted an interview about Oxford. Normally I don't have a problem talking about Land Rovers, but the interview was conducted outside the broadcast caravan, near the PA system, which gave about a 2-second delay between what I was saying and what I could hear, broadcasting live to a few thousand people. Try and keep your train of thought in those conditions. No pressure, Kev. Here's a sample of the interview so you can hear for yourself.
And tell us a little bit about the story of it.
Just a little bit.
Or carry on.
Yeah, so you get the students, one from Auckland University and the other one from Cambridge University. They were facing
A hugely interesting adventure and the great traditions of British expedition. Exactly, yeah. What better vehicle to represent it? Yeah. Okay, so that's a good, well.
At the end of the day, I drove Oxford around to the Auckland Land-Rover Owners Club stand so the team could have a drive around the showgrounds, and then headed back to Archibald and Shorter, which was all locked up. Oh crap. Fortunately, Greer Fife from Archibald and Shorter came to my rescue, which is just as well, as I still needed to get back to the showgrounds to get the Defender out before the gates were locked. First thing on Monday morning, Oxford continued his journey south to Hamilton Land Rover dealership, Duncan and Evatt, and the following Saturday I drove to Hamilton to take Oxford on his Waikato tour for him to meet more Land Rover enthusiasts. At Duncan and Evatt, I met a family that had driven up from Taupo, and another couple of chaps that had come across from Waikatani just to see Oxford. At the prescribed departure time, I fired up Oxford and headed off into the Hamilton Saturday morning traffic. The plan was similar to the Auckland trip, advertised times and places so local Land Rover enthusiasts could come and see Oxford. These locations were listed on the First Overland Facebook page. The sites included Hamilton Lake, Tiamutu Rose Gardens, Cambridge for a photo opportunity with Oxford, parked in front of the Cambridge sign, Lake Karapiro next to the hydro dam, and then back to Cambridge again to park up next to the Waikato River, and then onto the Hamilton Botanic Gardens, Oxford Street, and then back to Duncan and Evatt's. There appeared to be little interest in the Waikato to meet up with Oxford, with no visitors at Hamilton Lake, Tiamutu or the Cambridge Sign meeting points. I did, however, meet a family at Lake Karapiro who wanted a photograph of Oxford next to their discovery. And I also met up with fellow Series 1 owners Martin and Susie Thomas from Cambridge with their 1955. Topless, of course, as such a stunning clear Waikato day. I parked Oxford on a jetty overhanging the Waikato River as I was trying to get a photograph of Oxford and the river together, and some guys who had been swimming in the river asked if they could jump off Oxford's roof into the river about 10 metres below. This photo made the front cover of the July issue of the New Zealand 4-Wheel Drive magazine. I then headed back north into Hamilton to the Botanic Gardens. From the Botanic Gardens I made a quick stop at Oxford Street in Hamilton East before dropping Oxford back at Duncan and Abbott. The following day, Oxford was packed up and sent south to Wanganui to Philip Avery as the organiser of this year's annual Series 1 Land-Rover run. There's an old saying that says, God laughs at men who make plans. I headed back north to Auckland as Monday I was heading south again as I had a cell site to check near Karapiro, a fibre optic project in Taumanui on Tuesday, and Friday I'll be on the road to Wanganui in my Series 1, and the weekend after that was a biannual Hareworth 4-wheel drive safari in Napier. But little did we know at that stage that Dick COVID was about to shut New Zealand down and stuff up my summer of 4-wheel drive trips. But that's for the next video. Thanks for watching.